There's a particular kind of fear that lives in silence. The fear that if someone truly knows you, they'll realize you're not enough. Olivia had carried that fear her entire life, wrapped it around herself like armor, convinced that her inexperience, her innocence, her untouched body made her somehow less valuable in a world that celebrated experience. She believed no man would want the burden of being her first, especially not a man like him, a man who could have anyone, who had probably had everyone. So she stayed quiet, kept her secret locked away, never imagining that one morning everything would shatter, and he would see the truth written in crimson on white sheets. If this story touches your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Comment where you're listening from, and if you feel it was really worth it, consider becoming a member to get early access to upcoming stories. Your support makes all the difference. The penthouse smelled of expensive cologne and fresh coffee, a combination Olivia had come to associate with mornings that felt both surreal and terrifying. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city below. Manhattan spread out like a glittering kingdom, and she supposed that's exactly what it was. His kingdom. Alexander Moretti didn't just live in New York. He owned pieces of it, shaped it, commanded it with the same quiet intensity he brought to everything else, including her. Olivia stood in the doorway of the master bedroom, her reflection caught in the massive mirror across the room. She looked different now, her dark hair tangled from sleep and other things, her lips still swollen, her skin marked with the ghost of his touch. She wore one of his shirts, the white cotton falling to her thighs, and she felt small in it, swallowed by fabric that smelled like him, like cedar and something darker, something that made her pulse race even now. But it was the bed that held her attention. The sheets were a disaster, twisted and pulled, evidence of the night they'd shared, and there, stark against the pristine white Egyptian cotton, was a stain. Deep red, unmistakable. Blood. Her blood. Olivia's heart stopped. She'd known there might be some, had read about it, expected it even. But seeing it there, so obvious, so accusatory, made everything real in a way that terrified her. He would know now. There was no hiding it anymore. She heard his footsteps before she saw him, that confident stride that never hesitated, never second-guessed. Alexander appeared in the doorway, holding 2 coffee cups, already dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine despite the early hour. He was beautiful in that devastating way some men are. Not pretty, but powerful. All sharp angles and controlled strength. At 42, he carried himself with the assurance of a man who had built empires and destroyed competitors without breaking a sweat. His eyes, pale gray like winter storms, found hers first. Then they dropped to the bed and froze. The coffee cups stopped mid-motion. His entire body went still, that predatory stillness that meant his mind was moving at lightning speed even as his exterior became stone. Olivia watched his gaze lock onto the stain, watched something flicker across his face. Confusion, realization, shock, anger. She couldn't tell. The silence stretched, became suffocating. Olivia. His voice was low, carefully controlled, but she heard the edge underneath. Is that what I think it is? She couldn't speak. Her throat had closed. All she could do was stand there, arms wrapped around herself, feeling more exposed in his shirt than she'd felt naked the night before. Alexander set the coffee cups down on the dresser with deliberate precision, never taking his eyes off the bed. Then he turned to her, and the look on his face made her knees weak. Why didn't you tell me you were pure? The question came out rough, almost harsh, but underneath it she heard something else. Disbelief. Maybe even hurt. Why the hell didn't you tell me you were a virgin? The word hung in the air between them, loaded with implications, with judgment, with everything she'd been afraid of. Olivia forced herself to meet his eyes. Would it have mattered? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Would you have wanted me if you'd known? Alexander's jaw clenched. He moved toward her, each step measured, controlled, until he stood close enough that she had to tilt her head back to hold his gaze. Would I have wanted you? He repeated, his voice dropping even lower. Olivia, I've wanted you since the moment you walked into my office 6 months ago with your resume, and your terrified eyes, and your determination to pretend you weren't intimidated by me. 6 months ago. She remembered that day with painful clarity. She'd been 24, fresh out of her master's program, drowning in student debt, desperate for the executive assistant position at Moretti Industries. She'd researched him obsessively, prepared for every possible question, walked into that top-floor office ready to prove she belonged there. And then she'd seen him, and every prepared answer had evaporated from her mind. But there's a difference, Alexander continued, his hand coming up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheek, between wanting someone and taking someone's innocence without knowing, without preparing properly, without treating it with the reverence it deserved. His eyes searched hers, and she saw genuine distress there. Did I hurt you? Last night, this morning, did I hurt you? Olivia's breath caught. Of all the reactions she'd imagined, anger, disgust, rejection, this wasn't one of them. He looked almost stricken. No, she said quickly. I mean, there was some pain, but nothing I didn't want, nothing I couldn't handle. His thumb traced her lower lip. Some pain, he repeated flatly. Jesus Christ, Olivia. If I'd known, if you'd told me, I would have done everything differently. How? She challenged, feeling a spark of defensiveness. How would you have done it differently? Would you have treated me like I was fragile? Like I couldn't handle you? Would you have held back? The questions tumbled out, edged with the insecurity she'd carried for so long. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to see me differently. I didn't want to be a responsibility or a burden or some delicate thing you had to be careful with. Alexander's grip on her face tightened slightly, not painful, but firm, commanding her attention. You think being your first would have been a burden? His voice had gone quiet, dangerous. You think I would have seen taking your virginity as some kind of chore? He leaned closer, his breath warm against her lips. Olivia, do you have any idea what you've given me? Do you understand what it means that you trusted me with something you'd never given anyone else? She blinked, confused by the intensity in his voice. This wasn't the reaction she'd expected. Where was the disappointment? The regret? The inevitable pulling away? I thought, she started, her voice shaking, I thought you'd be angry. Or disappointed. Men like you, you're used to women who know what they're doing, who have experience, who can. Men like me, he interrupted, his voice cutting. What exactly do you think men like me want, Olivia? She hesitated. Women who are sophisticated, experienced, who can match you. Alexander's laugh was short, humorless. Is that what you think? That I've spent the last 6 months wanting you, pursuing you, breaking every professional boundary I have, because I was looking for someone sophisticated? He shook his head. I wanted you. Not some version of you with more experience or different history. You, exactly as you are. Olivia felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them back. She'd spent so long believing her inexperience was a flaw, something to be ashamed of, that hearing him say these things felt like having the ground shift beneath her feet. "Then why do you look so angry?" she asked. Alexander's expression softened slightly. "I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at myself." He dropped his hand and turned away, running his fingers through his dark hair in a gesture of frustration. "I should have known. Should have realized. The way you responded to me, the way you trembled when I touched you, I thought it was just nerves. Just the intensity between us. But there were signs, and I missed them, because I was too caught up in finally having you to pay attention." He turned back to face her. "How long have you been carrying this? 24 years old and never?" He couldn't seem to finish the sentence. Olivia lifted her chin, feeling defensive again. "Is there something wrong with that? Is there some expiration date I missed? Some age where being a virgin becomes pathetic instead of just unusual?" "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're making my virginity into this huge, dramatic thing, which is exactly why I didn't tell you in the first place." Alexander closed the distance between them in 2 strides, backing her against the wall. "It is a huge thing," he said, his voice intense. "Not because there's anything wrong with it, but because it matters. It should have mattered. If I'd known, I would have made sure your first time was perfect, gentle, everything it was supposed to be. Instead, he cut himself off, jaw working. Instead, "You what?" Olivia challenged, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. "Made me feel things I've never felt? Touched me in ways I've dreamed about? Made me come so hard I forgot my own name? Is that what you're sorry for?" The air between them crackled with sudden tension. Alexander's eyes darkened, that pale gray turning to storm clouds. "You need to be very careful about how you talk to me right now," he said quietly. "Why? Because I'm supposed to be shy about it? Embarrassed? I'm not sorry about last night. I'm not sorry I gave you my virginity. The only thing I'm sorry about is that you found out this way instead of me being brave enough to tell you." She pushed against his chest, needing space, needing air. "I wanted you. I chose you. And yes, there was pain, but there was also pleasure. More pleasure than I ever imagined, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. So stop acting like you've somehow damaged me." Alexander caught her wrists, held them against his chest, so she could feel his heart hammering beneath her palms. "I'm not acting like I damaged you. I'm trying to understand why you kept this from me. We've been dancing around each other for months, Olivia. 6 months of late nights at the office, of lingering looks, of tension so thick I could barely breathe. And then 2 weeks ago, when I finally kissed you, when things finally shifted between us, you still said nothing." She remembered that kiss, remembered how he'd trapped her against her desk after everyone else had gone home, how his mouth had claimed hers with a hunger that had made her dizzy. She'd wanted to tell him then, but the words had stuck in her throat, tangled up with fear and shame and the certainty that confession would ruin everything. "I was afraid," she admitted quietly. "Afraid you'd change your mind. Afraid you'd see me differently. Afraid you'd treat me like I was made of glass. So, you let me think you had experience. Let me assume you knew what you wanted, how you liked to be touched." His thumbs rubbed circles on the insides of her wrists. "Do you have any idea what that means? I was rough with you, Olivia. Not brutal, but not gentle either. I held you down. I marked your skin. I made you take all of me, even when you were tight enough that I should have realized. And I loved every second of it," she interrupted fiercely. "Every single second. The roughness, the intensity, the way you held me down. All of it. Stop trying to rewrite last night into something it wasn't. Alexander searched her face. You really mean that? It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. Yes. I've never been so sure of anything in my life. He exhaled slowly, and some of the tension left his shoulders. Then help me understand. Why me? Why now? You could have chosen anyone for your first time. Why give something that precious to a man like me? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Olivia knew what he was really asking. Knew he saw himself as too old for her. Too jaded. Too stained by his past. She'd learned pieces of that past over the past months, late-night conversations where he'd let his guard down enough to hint at the ruthlessness required to build his empire. The relationships that had ended because he couldn't be what those women needed. The reputation that preceded him wherever he went. Because I trust you, she said simply, and because when I imagine my life, my future, I can't imagine it without you in it. She watched his eyes widen slightly. Is that crazy? Maybe it is. We haven't been together long, we work together, which breaks every professional rule, and there's probably a dozen reasons why this is a terrible idea. But I don't care. I've spent my whole life being careful, being responsible, doing what I was supposed to do. For once, I wanted to do something reckless. I wanted you. Alexander's grip on her wrists tightened. Reckless, he repeated. You have no idea how reckless. Do you know what people say about me, Olivia? What my reputation is? I know you're ruthless in business. I know you've broken competitors who underestimated you. I know people either respect you or fear you, sometimes both. She held his gaze. I also know you stayed at the office until 2 am helping me prepare for my presentation, even though it had nothing to do with your work. I know you notice when I skip lunch and have food delivered without making a big deal about it. I know you've never once made me feel stupid for asking questions, even when they're probably obvious. So yes, I know your reputation. I also know it's not the whole story. Something flickered in his expression, vulnerability quickly masked. You see too much. Maybe. Or maybe you just forget to hide when we're alone. He released her wrists slowly, stepping back to create distance between them. Olivia watched him move to the window. Watched the morning light catch on his profile. Sharp and beautiful. I need you to understand something, he said, his voice carrying across the room. I'm not a good man, Olivia. I've done things, made choices, that would probably horrify you if you knew the details. I've destroyed companies, ruined careers, eliminated threats, without losing sleep. That's who I am. That's what it took to build all of this. He gestured at the city below, and knowing that, you still gave me something irreplaceable. Olivia moved toward him, bare feet silent on the hardwood. You're right. I don't know all the details of what you've done. Maybe someday you'll trust me enough to tell me. But I know enough to make my own choices. She stopped beside him, looking out at the skyline. You're not the only one with secrets. You're not the only one who's kept parts of yourself hidden. He turned to look at her. What secrets could you possibly have? You're 24. You've lived a careful, responsible life. Good grades, graduate degree, no criminal record, not even a parking ticket. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Yes, I had you investigated before I hired you. Standard procedure. I know. I assumed you did. She took a breath. But you didn't find everything. You didn't find out why I stayed a virgin so long, why I kept everyone at arm's length, why I built walls that nobody could get through. Alexander waited, giving her space to continue. My mother, Olivia, started, then paused. This was harder than she'd expected. My mother was 17 when she got pregnant with me. The father, my biological father, denied I was his, called her a liar, suggested she'd been with multiple men. She raised me alone, worked 3 jobs, never complained. But I saw what it cost her. She wrapped her arms around herself. I saw how men looked at her, single mother, young. They assumed she was easy, that she'd made poor choices, that she was somehow less than. I watched her go on exactly 2 dates in my entire childhood, and both times the men treated her like she should be grateful for their attention, like she owed them something because they were willing to overlook her past. Alexander's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. So I learned early that sex has consequences, that giving yourself to someone could destroy your entire life, that men would take what they wanted and leave you to deal with the aftermath alone. I made a promise to myself when I was 12 years old, Olivia continued. I promised I would never end up like my mother. I would finish school. I would build a career. I would be independent, self-sufficient, not reliant on anyone, and I would never, ever give myself to someone unless I was absolutely certain they wouldn't destroy me. She turned to face him. I kept that promise. Through high school, through college, through graduate school. Boys asked me out. Men showed interest, and I said no to all of them because none of them felt safe. None of them made me believe they'd stay. Alexander reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. And I did, she confirmed. I don't know why. Maybe it's because you never pretended to be something you're not. You never promised me forever or made empty declarations. You just showed me through actions that I mattered, that I was valued, that if I took the risk of trusting you, you wouldn't betray that trust. His hand cupped her cheek. That's a lot of faith to put in a man you've known for 6 months. I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll regret it. She covered his hand with hers. But I don't think so. Call it intuition or stupidity or wishful thinking. But something in me recognized something in you, like we were both hiding, both afraid of being seen fully. And somehow, we saw each other anyway. Alexander pulled her against his chest, his arms wrapping around her. Holding her close, she felt his heartbeat against her ear, steady and strong. I don't deserve you, he murmured into her hair. That's not your decision to make, she replied. They stood like that for a long moment, the city stretching out below them, the morning sun climbing higher. Finally, Alexander pulled back enough to look at her. We need to talk about last night. Really talk about it. I need to know if I hurt you more than you're admitting. Olivia felt heat creep into her cheeks but forced herself to hold his gaze. You didn't. I promise. There was pain at first, when we. She stumbled over the words, suddenly shy despite everything. When I entered you, Alexander supplied, his voice gentle. Yes, that hurt. More than I expected, honestly. But you stopped. You asked if I was okay. You waited until I adjusted before you moved again. She remembered lying beneath him, feeling split open, stretched impossibly full, and how he'd held himself completely still despite the tension in every muscle, despite the sweat beading on his forehead, waiting for her to tell him it was okay to continue. And after the initial pain? He prompted. After the pain, it was. She searched for words. It was overwhelming. Not bad overwhelming, just intense, like every nerve in my body was firing at once. You were bigger than I expected, fuller, and I kept thinking I couldn't possibly take more, but then I did, and it felt what? Like I'd been waiting my entire life to feel that full, that complete, that connected to another person. She could barely meet his eyes now, embarrassed by her own honesty. Is that weird? Is that too much? Alexander's thumb traced her lower lip. It's not too much. It's perfect. He hesitated. Did you? Were you able to? Did I make you come? Olivia's face flamed. Yes. Twice, actually. Once when your mouth. She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't quite form the words for what he'd done to her with his tongue, how he'd held her legs open and devoured her until she'd screamed into the pillow. And once when you were inside me, and you touched me, and you fell apart, Alexander finished, his voice rough. You clenched around me so tight, I nearly lost control. I've never felt anything like it, never experienced anything so intense as being inside you when you came. The air between them had changed, charged with memory and renewed desire. Olivia could feel her body responding to his proximity, to the heat in his eyes, despite the soreness between her thighs. We should probably deal with the sheets, she said, trying to inject some practicality into the moment. The housekeeper comes today. She doesn't need to see. Alexander's expression darkened. No one is going to see. I'll handle the sheets myself. He released her and moved to the bed, stripping the fitted sheet with quick, efficient movements. Olivia watched him, this billionaire CEO, gathering up blood-stained sheets without hesitation, without disgust, and felt something warm bloom in her chest. You don't have to do that, she said. I can handle it. It's my blood. He turned to look at her, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. It's evidence of your trust, of what you gave me. I'm not letting anyone else see it, and I'm sure as hell not letting you clean it up like it's something to be ashamed of. He carried the bundled sheets toward the master bathroom. Besides, I have questions, and you're going to answer them while I deal with this. Olivia followed him into the enormous bathroom, all marble and chrome, watching as he dumped the sheets in the bathtub and turned on the cold water. Questions about what? About everything, about how far you've gone with other men, about what experience you do have. He glanced at her. Because you kiss like you've kissed before. You knew how to touch me, where to put your hands. So you're not completely inexperienced, just virginal. She leaned against the counter, watching water soak into white fabric, pink tendrils swirling in the stream. I've kissed men before. 3, to be exact. One in high school, a study partner who kissed me after prom even though we didn't go together. It was awkward and wet, and I didn't like it. One in college, a guy from my economics class. That one was better, more confident, but I felt nothing. And one last year, a blind date my roommate set up. He was nice, good-looking, successful, and when he kissed me goodnight, I felt absolutely nothing. And me? Alexander asked, adding detergent to the water. When I kissed you? When you kissed me, I felt everything. Too much. Like I was drowning and being saved at the same time. She watched him work, the domestic strangeness of the moment not lost on her. I've been touched above the waist by 2 of those men. The college guy got his hand under my shirt once. The blind date got as far as unhooking my bra. Both times I panicked and stopped it. But you didn't panic with me. No. With you, I wanted more. Wanted your hands everywhere. Wanted you to take everything I'd never given anyone else. Alexander straightened, drying his hands on a towel. I need you to understand something. Last night, this morning, that was just the beginning. There's so much more I want to do with you, so many ways I want to touch you, taste you, make you come. But now that I know it was your first time, now that I understand how new all of this is, we're doing things differently. Olivia felt a flutter of anxiety. Different how? I don't want you to hold back. I don't want you to treat me like I'm fragile. I'm not going to treat you like you're fragile. I'm going to treat you like you're precious. There's a difference. He moved toward her, backing her against the marble counter. We're going to take our time. I'm going to learn every inch of your body. What makes you sigh? What makes you moan? What makes you scream? I'm going to teach you things, show you pleasures you haven't imagined yet. But we're going to do it right. His hands gripped the counter on either side of her, caging her in. And you're going to tell me everything. No more secrets, no more hiding. If something hurts, you tell me. If you need more, you tell me. If you want something, anything, you ask for it. Understand? Olivia nodded, her throat dry. I understand. Good girl. The praise sent a shiver through her. Now I'm going to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Last night, this morning, after the initial pain, did anything else hurt? Are you sore now? Do you need to see a doctor? She considered lying, downplaying the discomfort, but his eyes told her he'd see through it. I'm sore, she admitted. Not terrible, but noticeable. When I walked to the bathroom earlier, I could definitely feel it. But it's not bad, just different. I don't need a doctor. I think it's normal. Alexander's jaw tightened. How sore? Rate it for me, 1 to 10. Maybe a 4? It's more of an ache than actual pain. She paused. Is that bad? It's not bad, but it means we're not doing anything physical for a few days. You need time to heal. The thought of going days without his touch made her want to protest, but she could see the determination in his face. Define anything physical, she said instead. His eyes darkened with amusement. Trying to find loopholes already? Maybe. No penetration, he said firmly. Nothing that would cause more soreness or delay healing. Your body needs to recover from being stretched, from accommodating me for the first time. Heat flooded through her at the clinical way he discussed her body's adjustment to his size. But, he continued, his voice dropping lower, there are other things we can do. Things that don't require me being inside you, but will still make you come so hard you forget your own name. Would you like that? Olivia's breath quickened. Yes. Yes, what? Yes, I'd like that, she said, then hesitated. What do I call you? During intimate moments? You're my boss technically, so Mr. Moretti feels wrong even though it's accurate. Alexander seems too formal. Alex seems presumptuous. A slow smile crossed his face, predatory and heated. In public, at the office, you call me Mr. Moretti. We maintain professional boundaries, keep this private. But here, in my home, in my bed, you call me Alexander. And when I'm making you come, when you're falling apart under my hands or my mouth, you can call me anything you want. You can scream my name, beg me for more, tell me you need me. All of that is not just allowed, but encouraged. Olivia felt her face heat but forced herself to maintain eye contact. I'm not very good at the talking during sex thing yet. Last night I mostly just made noise. Those noises were perfect, Alexander assured her. The little gasps you made when I touched you, the way you moaned when I finally pushed inside you, the scream you tried to muffle when you came. All of it was perfect. You don't need to narrate or perform. Whatever comes naturally is exactly what I want to hear. He straightened, giving her space. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Right now, you need to eat something. Take some ibuprofen for the soreness, and probably have a proper shower. I need to get these sheets properly cleaned and handle some work calls I was supposed to make an hour ago. The shift back to practical matters was jarring. Olivia had gotten used to the intense intimacy of their conversation, and returning to mundane reality felt abrupt. Right. Of course. You probably have meetings. I cleared my schedule, Alexander said. Told my assistant I'd be working from home today, and wasn't to be disturbed unless the building was literally on fire. Which means I have all day to take care of you, to make sure you're okay, and to continue the conversation we should have had before last night. He cupped her face again, thumb stroking her cheek. You matter to me, Olivia, more than I'm comfortable admitting. More than is probably wise given our working relationship. But you need to understand that taking your virginity, whether I knew about it beforehand or not, that means something to me. It means I have a responsibility to you now. I don't want to be your responsibility, Olivia protested. I want to be your equal, your partner, your... She trailed off, uncertain what word to use. Girlfriend seemed too juvenile. Lover too cold. Your what? Alexander prompted gently. I don't know. What are we exactly? We work together. We've slept together. We obviously have feelings for each other, but we haven't really defined it. Are you my boyfriend? That sounds ridiculous given your age and position. Are we dating? Are we exclusive? I have no idea what the rules are here. Alexander was quiet for a moment, considering. I'm 42 years old, Olivia. I don't do casual. I don't do undefined. If I'm sleeping with you, if I'm touching you, if you're in my bed, then you're mine, exclusively. No other men, no dates, no testing the waters elsewhere. And I'm yours the same way. No other women, no hedge funds with benefits, no keeping my options open. We're together, fully, or we're not together at all. The possessiveness in his voice should have alarmed her. Instead, it sent a thrill through her body. So we're together. In a relationship. Yes, and we keep it private, at least for now. Not because I'm ashamed, but because mixing business and personal is complicated enough without making it public knowledge. At work, we maintain professional boundaries. After hours, here, or wherever we choose to be together, those boundaries disappear. He studied her face. Can you do that? Can you work for me during the day and be with me at night without the lines getting blurred? Olivia thought about it honestly. I don't know. I've never tried to separate roles like that before. But I'm willing to try if you are. I'm willing to try, Alexander confirmed. But if it becomes a problem, if you feel uncomfortable or compromised at work, we address it immediately. Your career matters. I won't let our relationship sabotage your professional growth. The fact that he considered her career, her professional development, made something warm settle in Olivia's chest. Okay. We try it. Private relationship, professional at work, and if it becomes a problem, we deal with it. Good. He glanced at the tub where the sheets soaked. Go shower. Use my bathroom. Use any of my products you want. I'm going to finish with these, make breakfast, and then we're going to spend the day talking. Really talking. About expectations, boundaries, what we both want from this. Olivia hesitated. Can I ask you something first? Anything. Why did you wait? You said you've wanted me for 6 months. You could have made a move sooner. You're my boss. You have power. You could have pursued me aggressively. But you didn't. You waited until I gave clear signals I was interested. Why? Alexander's expression softened. Because consent matters. Because I've seen too many men abuse their power, use their positions to pressure women who can't say no without consequences. I never wanted you to feel trapped or obligated, so I waited. I flirted, yes. I created opportunities for us to be alone. I made my interest clear. But I waited for you to show me you wanted it too. The night you kissed me, Olivia said, remembering, I initiated it. I was the one who moved first. You were. You stood up from your desk, walked around to where I was standing, and you kissed me. I'll never forget it, because in that moment, I knew you wanted me as much as I wanted you, that I wasn't imagining the chemistry between us, or projecting my desires onto you. He smiled slightly. You were shaking, though. I could feel your hands trembling when you put them on my chest. I was terrified, Olivia admitted. Terrified you'd reject me. Terrified I was misreading everything. Terrified I'd ruin our working relationship. But I couldn't not kiss you. The wanting had gotten too strong to ignore. I'm glad you were brave enough to take that risk. Alexander moved toward the door. Now go shower before I forget my resolution to let you heal, and pull you into that bathroom to continue what we started last night. The heat in his voice sent desire pooling low in Olivia's belly despite the soreness. She watched him leave, then turned to face the enormous walk-in shower with its multiple heads and steam options. It was ridiculous, excessive, perfect, just like everything else about Alexander's life. The hot water felt incredible against her sore muscles. Olivia stood under the rainfall shower head, letting the heat work on the ache between her thighs, and tried to process everything that had happened in the last 12 hours. She'd given Alexander her virginity. He'd discovered the truth. They'd had an intense conversation about trust and responsibility and what they meant to each other. And now, they were officially together, in a relationship, though one they'd keep hidden from the office. It was a lot. Maybe too much, too fast. But standing in his shower, using his expensive body wash that smelled like cedar and bergamot, Olivia couldn't bring herself to regret any of it. Yes, she was sore. Yes, seeing the blood on the sheets had been mortifying. Yes, his reaction had scared her initially. But underneath all of that was a certainty she couldn't shake. This was right. He was right. Whatever happened next, she'd made the right choice in trusting him. She washed carefully, mindful of the soreness, and discovered a few small bruises on her hips, her thighs, marks from his fingers, from his grip when he'd held her down and thrust deep. The bruises didn't upset her. If anything, they felt like evidence, proof that last night had really happened, that she hadn't imagined the intensity of it. She'd been marked by him in more ways than one. After the shower, wrapped in his plush robe, Olivia found Alexander in the kitchen. He'd changed into jeans and a soft gray sweater, looking younger and more relaxed than she usually saw him. The penthouse kitchen was all stainless steel and marble, professional-grade appliances that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. He stood at the stove, cooking what smelled like eggs and bacon, completely at ease in the domestic setting. I didn't know you cooked, Olivia said, sliding onto one of the bar stools. Alexander glanced at her, his eyes tracking over her form in his robe with obvious appreciation. I live alone. Cooking was either learn or starve. I'm not a chef, but I can handle breakfast basics. He plated food and set it in front of her. Eat. You need to rebuild your strength. The eggs were perfect, the bacon crispy, and Olivia realized she was starving. She'd been too nervous to eat much yesterday, anticipation and anxiety killing her appetite. Now, her body demanded fuel. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Alexander spoke. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Olivia looked up, fork pausing halfway to her mouth. Okay. Do you regret it? Last night, this morning, now that you've had time to process, do you regret giving me your virginity? The vulnerability in his voice surprised her. For all his confidence, his power, his success, he genuinely feared her answer. No, Olivia said firmly. No regrets. Not even close. Relief flashed across his face. Good, because I was lying awake after you fell asleep, watching you, and the thought that you might wake up and regret it, that you might hate me for not realizing, was eating me alive. I don't hate you. I'm not sorry. I'm actually. She paused, searching for words. I'm glad it was messy and intense and real instead of some perfect orchestrated first time. Because that's not us. We're not soft edges and gentle touches. We're intensity and fire and passion that feels almost dangerous sometimes. Alexander set down his fork. It is dangerous. What I feel, for you, what you make me feel, it's not safe or controlled or manageable. I've spent years building walls, maintaining distance, never letting anyone get close enough to matter. And then you walked into my office with your resume and your determination, and every wall I'd built started cracking. He ran a hand through his hair. I told myself it was just attraction, physical desire. I could manage that. But it was never just physical. From the first conversation, I was drawn to your mind, your perspective, the way you saw things differently than everyone else. I felt it too, Olivia admitted. That first day when you interviewed me, you asked about my thesis on behavioral economics in corporate structures. You actually read it, actually cared about the ideas, not just whether I could schedule meetings and answer phones. You treated me like I had value, beyond my job description. Because you do have value. You're brilliant, Olivia. The work you've done these past 6 months, the insights you've brought to my projects, you've made me look at problems in new ways. You've made my company better. Olivia felt her cheeks heat. I'm just an assistant. You're not just anything, Alexander said firmly. And we need to talk about that, actually. About your role at the company. About what happens now that we're together. Anxiety spiked in her chest. Are you going to fire me? Because if this is about maintaining professional boundaries, I understand, but I'm not firing you. I'm promoting you. Olivia blinked. What? You've been functioning as my executive assistant, but the work you've been doing is more sophisticated than that title suggests. Strategy consulting, market analysis, project management. So I'm officially promoting you to Junior Strategic Advisor. New title, significant raise, different reporting structure. You'll work with my executive team, not just for me, which helps with the conflict of interest since you won't directly report to me anymore. He watched her process the information. This isn't a gift because we're sleeping together. This is recognition of work you've already been doing. I was planning to offer the promotion next month anyway. Our relationship just makes it more urgent to formalize. Olivia's mind reeled. That's a huge jump. People are going to question it. Let them question. Your work speaks for itself. Anyone who reviews your contributions will understand the promotion is earned. He leaned forward, but you need to decide if you can handle it. The scrutiny, the inevitable gossip that might occur even though we're keeping the relationship private, the pressure of a more visible role. If it's too much, we can wait, or we can discuss alternatives. I can handle it, Olivia said, and as she spoke the words, she realized they were true. She could handle the scrutiny, the challenges, the complexity of it all. She'd spent her entire life being underestimated, dismissed as too young or too inexperienced. Let them question the promotion. She'd prove herself the same way she'd proven herself every other time, through excellent work and undeniable results. Good, Alexander said with satisfaction. We'll announce it Monday. In the meantime, we're spending the weekend here, together, figuring out how this is going to work. The whole weekend? Olivia asked. Don't you have things to do? People to meet? A company to run? I have things to do right here, specifically you. The heat in his voice made her breath catch. I thought you said we needed to wait until I healed. Wait for penetration, he corrected. But there are so many other ways to give pleasure, Olivia. Ways I'm very eager to explore with you. If you're interested. Desire warred with nervousness in her chest. I'm interested. But I don't know. I don't have much experience with. You don't have any experience, Alexander interrupted gently. And that's fine. More than fine. It means I get to teach you, show you, discover what makes your body sing. He came around the counter, standing between her knees where she sat on the bar stool. But first, I need to know your limits. Things you're absolutely not willing to try. Things that scare you. Hard boundaries I need to respect. Olivia thought about it. I don't know. I've never done anything, so I don't know what my limits are yet. Then we start with soft boundaries, things we can explore gently, with full permission to stop if they don't feel right. You always have the right to say no, to say stop, to say this doesn't work for me. No matter what we're doing, no matter how far we've gone, you have that power. Understand? I understand, she whispered. His hands came up to frame her face. Tell me something. When you imagined your first time, what did you imagine? What did you want? Olivia's face flamed. This is embarrassing. Nothing between us is embarrassing. Tell me. I imagined someone who cared about me. Someone who'd be patient, but also passionate. Someone who'd make me feel safe, but also make me feel alive. Someone who'd want all of me, not just my body, but my mind, my heart, everything. She met his eyes. I imagined someone like you, even before I met you. And then I met you, and you were everything I'd imagined, but more intense, more complicated, more real. Alexander's thumb brushed her lower lip. More real, he repeated. Yes, that's exactly what this is. Real in a way that's both exhilarating and terrifying. He leaned down, his breath warm against her lips. I'm going to kiss you now. And then I'm going to take you back to bed, lay you out and discover every sensitive spot on your body. I'm going to make you come with my mouth, my hands, maybe both. And you're going to let me, going to trust me, going to give yourself over to the pleasure. Can you do that? Yes, Olivia breathed. His lips captured hers in a kiss that started gentle but quickly deepened, became demanding, claiming. She opened for him, let his tongue sweep in, met his intensity with her own growing desire. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Bedroom, he commanded. Now. Olivia slid off the stool, her legs slightly unsteady, and let him guide her back to the master bedroom. The bed had been remade with fresh sheets, pristine white cotton that held no evidence of what had happened earlier. Alexander positioned her in the center, arranging her carefully on her back. I want you to keep the robe on for now, he said, settling beside her. I'm going to undress you slowly, discover you piece by piece. His fingers found the robe's belt, loosened it with deliberate care. The fabric fell open, revealing her body, and she had to fight the urge to cover herself. She'd been naked with him last night, but somehow this felt more exposing, more vulnerable. Maybe because she was entirely sober now, fully aware, with nothing to blur the edges. You're beautiful, Alexander said, his eyes tracking over her body with undisguised hunger. I should have told you that last night, should have worshipped every inch of you. But I was too desperate to get inside you to take my time properly. His hand traced the curve of her breast, thumb brushing her nipple. I'm taking my time now. Olivia gasped as sensation shot through her. Her breasts had always been sensitive, but his touch ignited something more intense than she'd experienced in her limited experimentation alone. Responsive, Alexander murmured with satisfaction. I noticed that last night. Your nipples hardened the moment I touched you, the moment I took them in my mouth. He leaned down, his tongue circling one peak. Do you touch yourself here when you're alone? When you think about me? The question made her squirm with embarrassment. Sometimes, she admitted. Sometimes I'd lie in bed after working late with you, and I'd touch myself and imagine it was your hands instead of mine. Good girl, he praised, the words making her clench with need despite the soreness. What else did you imagine? My hands where else? Everywhere, she whispered. Your hands on my breasts, between my legs, your mouth on me, inside me, everywhere. Alexander's eyes darkened. Show me. Show me how you touch yourself. Olivia froze. What? I want to see what you do when you're alone, how you make yourself come. Show me. I can't, she protested. It's too embarrassing. I wouldn't even know how to. You know exactly how. You've been doing it for years. His hand caught hers, guided it to her breast. Start here. Show me what feels good. With shaking fingers, Olivia touched herself, feeling utterly exposed and wickedly aroused at the same time. She circled her nipple the way she did alone, then pinched gently. Alexander watched with intense focus. Good. Now lower. Show me how you touch your pussy. The crude word sent a shock through her system. He'd been relatively careful with language up to this point, but now the raw desire in his voice, the explicit demand, it made something primal respond in her. With Alexander's eyes locked on her movements, Olivia slid her hand lower, over her stomach, hesitating at the juncture of her thighs. Don't stop, he commanded. Show me. She let her fingers slip between her legs, gasping at the immediate sensitivity. She was already wet, already swollen, despite the soreness. That's it, Alexander encouraged. Show me what you like. Slow circles? Direct pressure? Tell me what makes you come when you're alone. Slow circles, Olivia managed, demonstrating even as embarrassment flooded through her. On either side of my clit, not directly on it. Building up gradually until the pressure is too much, and then faster, firmer until you come, Alexander finished. I want to see it. I want to watch you make yourself come. His hand replaced hers, his much larger fingers taking over the motion. Like this? Is this the rhythm? Yes, she gasped, her hips lifting involuntarily toward his touch. The soreness was still there, a dull ache that reminded her of how thoroughly he'd filled her. But the pleasure was stronger, overwhelming the discomfort. Alexander's fingers moved with expert precision, reading her body's responses, adjusting pressure and speed. You're so wet, he observed, his voice rough, even sore, even tender from last night. Your body still wants this. Still wants me. Yes, Olivia whimpered. I always want you. Can't seem to stop wanting you. You never have to stop. His thumb found her clit, circled it directly, and she cried out. That's it. Let me hear you. No one can hear us here. This entire floor is mine, soundproofed walls, complete privacy. You can scream as loud as you need. The thought of being able to let go completely, to make noise without fear of being overheard, was intoxicating. Olivia stopped trying to muffle her responses, let her moans and gasps fill the room. Alexander's eyes never left her face, watching every expression, cataloging every reaction. I'm close, she warned, feeling the tension building. Please, I'm so close. Come for me, Alexander commanded. Let go. Show me what you look like when you fall apart. His fingers moved faster, firmer, and the coil of tension snapped. Olivia came with a cry, her body arching, thighs trembling, pleasure washing through her in waves. Alexander worked her through it, gentle now, drawing out every last pulse of sensation, until she collapsed back against the pillows, boneless and satisfied. Beautiful, he murmured, withdrawing his hand and bringing his fingers to his mouth. Olivia watched in shock as he sucked her arousal from his skin, his eyes never leaving hers. You taste incredible. Last night I barely got a taste before I was too desperate to wait. Next time I'm taking my time, making you come on my tongue before I ever enter you." The promise sent aftershocks through her system. "Next time," she repeated. When? When you're healed. When your body is ready to take me again without pain. Could be a few days, could be a week. We'll know when the soreness fades. Olivia struggled to sit up, her body still trembling slightly. "What about you? You made me come, but you didn't." She gestured vaguely at the obvious arousal evident in his jeans. "Don't you want?" "I always want," Alexander said bluntly. "But this weekend isn't about my pleasure. It's about yours. About teaching you what your body is capable of. About making up for the fact that I took your virginity without knowing, without giving you the gentleness you deserved." "I didn't want gentleness," Olivia protested. "I wanted intensity, and that's what you gave me." "Still," he insisted, "you're getting all my attention, all my focus, until you're completely comfortable with your own sexuality, your own desires. Then, when you're ready, we'll work on yours." The thought made her bold. "I want to touch you. Want to learn what you like, how to make you feel good. Can I?" Alexander hesitated, clearly torn between desire and his resolution to focus on her. Finally, he nodded. "Yes. But carefully. I'm already on edge from watching you come. It won't take much." Olivia moved closer, her hands going to his belt with trembling fingers. "Tell me what to do. Guide me." Alexander helped her with his belt, his jeans, until he was naked before her. Olivia had seen him last night in dim light, felt him inside her, but this was the first time she was really seeing him. He was beautiful, powerful muscle and masculine strength, and his arousal was obvious, thick and hard and intimidating in daylight. "You can touch," Alexander said, his voice strained. "However you want. Gentle at first, then firmer if you want. Pay attention to how I respond, let that guide you." Olivia reached out tentatively, her fingers wrapping around his length. He was hot and hard and silky smooth, and feeling him pulse in her grip sent a thrill through her. "Like this?" she asked, stroking experimentally. "Exactly like that," Alexander gritted out. "Firmer. Don't be afraid of hurting me. You can't. Not like this." She increased her pressure, found a rhythm, watched his face for reactions. His jaw clenched, his breathing quickened, and she felt powerful in a way she'd never experienced before. She was doing this to him, making him lose control, making him need. "Your mouth," Alexander said roughly. "Do you want to try with your mouth?" Nervousness spiked, but curiosity was stronger. "Yes, but I don't know how. I've never. I'll teach you. Start with just the head, gentle kisses, get used to the taste, the feel. Then if you want to take more, open wider. Use your hand on what you can't fit. And if it's too much, if you don't like it, stop immediately. No pressure, no expectations." Olivia leaned down, pressed soft kisses to the head of his arousal, tasting salt and musk, and something uniquely him. It wasn't unpleasant, just unfamiliar. She grew bolder, opening her mouth wider, taking him in, using her tongue the way instinct suggested. Alexander's hand came to her hair, not pushing or controlling, just touching, grounding. "That's good," he praised. "So good, Olivia." Just like that, gentle suction. Use your hand on the base. She followed his instructions, growing more confident as she learned what made him groan, what made his fingers tighten in her hair. The sense of power intensified, knowing she was affecting him this way, making him lose the iron control he always maintained. "I'm close," Alexander warned, his voice strained. "You need to pull back if you don't want." But Olivia didn't pull back. Something in her wanted this. Wanted to take everything he could give. Wanted to complete this act the way he'd completed their joining the night before. She increased her efforts, and Alexander's control shattered. He came with a harsh groan, his body tensing, and Olivia swallowed instinctively, taking everything, not pulling away until he was completely spent. When she finally sat back, wiping her mouth, Alexander pulled her into a fierce kiss, not seeming to care about taste or propriety. "You're going to destroy me," he muttered against her lips. "You're perfect, absolutely perfect, and you're going to completely destroy me." They collapsed together on the bed, limbs tangled, breathing slowly returning to normal. Olivia felt pleasantly exhausted, satisfied in a bone-deep way she'd never experienced before. "Is it always like this?" she asked quietly. "This? Intense? No," Alexander said honestly. "This is unusual. Special. I've had sex before, obviously, been with women, had relationships, but this feeling, this intensity, this need that doesn't fade even after release, this is new for me too." He turned to look at her, which either means we're incredibly compatible or incredibly stupid for mixing work and personal life so completely. "Maybe both," Olivia suggested. "Maybe we're compatible and stupid and lucky all at once." Alexander smiled, a genuine smile that made him look younger. "Maybe we are." They spent the rest of Saturday in the penthouse, alternating between deep conversations and physical exploration, learning each other's bodies, discovering preferences and boundaries. Alexander was true to his word about taking time to map every sensitive spot, finding places that made her sigh, places that made her moan, places that made her beg. By evening, Olivia was thoroughly debauched and completely satisfied, her body singing with pleasure despite the lingering soreness. Sunday morning brought a different kind of intimacy. They cooked breakfast together, Alexander teaching her his method for perfect scrambled eggs. They read the newspapers side by side on the couch, their legs tangled together, occasionally reading interesting passages aloud. They discussed everything from politics to philosophy to the latest developments in technology markets. Olivia was reminded again why she'd been drawn to Alexander beyond just physical attraction. His mind was as compelling as his body, his perspectives challenging, his willingness to debate and be wrong refreshing. "Tell me about your mother," Alexander said during a lull in conversation. "You mentioned her yesterday, but I want to know more. Is she still alive? Do you see her often?" Olivia set down her coffee. "She's alive, living in the same small town where I grew up, still working too hard for too little money. We talk once a week. I send her money, which she always protests, but accepts, because she needs it. She's proud of me, but also worried I'm working too hard, sacrificing too much, ending up alone like she did. Does she know about me?" Alexander asked. "She knows I work for you. She doesn't know we're together. I haven't told her, because..." Olivia paused. "Because I knew she'd worry. You're my boss. You're significantly older, you're wealthy and powerful, and she'd see all the ways this could go wrong, all the ways I could get hurt." "She'd be right to worry," Alexander said quietly. "Those are all legitimate concerns. I am your boss. I am 18 years older. I do have power over your career. Any mother would see those red flags." "But you're also kind," Olivia countered, "and thoughtful and careful with my feelings, and committed to making sure this doesn't hurt my career. My mother doesn't know those things yet. Maybe someday, when we've figured out if this is going to last, I'll introduce you. But not yet." Alexander nodded. "That's fair. And what about your father? The one who denied you?" "I have no contact with him. Never have. He lives somewhere in California, I think. Has a family now. Legitimate children he actually acknowledges. Sometimes I look him up online, see pictures of him at school events with his kids, and I feel. She struggled for the word. I feel nothing. Not anger, not hurt, just nothing. He's a stranger who shares my Dina. That must have been hard, Alexander said. Growing up knowing he chose not to know you. It was. But it also made me stronger, more independent, more determined to prove I didn't need him or anyone else. She looked at him. Which maybe explains why trusting you with my virginity was such a big deal. Because letting someone in, depending on someone, that goes against every survival instinct I developed. And yet, you did it anyway. And yet I did it anyway, she confirmed. Because something about you made me want to take that risk. Sunday evening arrived too quickly. They'd have to return to work tomorrow. Resume professional boundaries. Pretend their relationship didn't exist during business hours. The thought made Olivia anxious. How do we do this? She asked as they prepared dinner together. How do we switch between personal and professional without it destroying us or our careers? Alexander paused in his chopping of vegetables. Carefully, deliberately, we set clear rules, and we stick to them, no matter how difficult. What rules? At the office, we're Mr. Moretti and Miss Williams. No touching beyond professional handshakes. No lingering looks. No private conversations that could be misconstrued. You report to James in your new role, not directly to me, which helps with the conflict of interest. We maintain separate professional reputations. He resumed chopping. After hours, here or at your apartment, or wherever we choose to meet, the roles disappear. We're Alexander and Olivia, we're together, we're intimate, all of that. But we're careful about being seen together publicly until we decide how and when to address the relationship. It sounds exhausting, Olivia admitted, maintaining two separate versions of us. It will be exhausting, Alexander agreed. But it's necessary, at least initially. If people at the office discover we're together before you've proven yourself in your new role, they'll attribute your promotion to our relationship rather than your merit. That undermines everything you've worked for. So we wait, we're careful, and when the time is right, when you've established yourself, then we can be more open. Olivia understood the logic even as she hated the necessity. How long are we talking? Months? Years? Months. 6 at minimum, maybe a year to be safe. Long enough that when the relationship becomes known, your track record speaks for itself. He set down the knife and turned to face her. I know it's not ideal. I know you'd probably prefer to be open from the start, not hide what we are. But I've seen how these things play out in corporate environments. Women get labeled as sleeping their way to the top, their accomplishments dismissed, their credibility destroyed. I won't let that happen to you. The protectiveness in his voice made her chest tight. Okay. We're careful. We maintain boundaries at work. We keep this private. She moved closer to him. But here now, we're not at work. We're just us. Alexander pulled her against him, his arms wrapping around her waist. Just us, he agreed, which means I can do this. He kissed her, deep and thorough, and Olivia melted into it, savoring the taste of him, the feel of his body against hers. They made love that night, slowly and carefully given her lingering soreness, but with no less intensity than their first time. Alexander was more controlled now, more attentive to her comfort, checking in constantly to make sure she was okay, that nothing hurt too much. And Olivia discovered that sex could be different every time, could be rough and desperate one night, and tender and intimate the next, and both versions were equally satisfying in their own ways. Monday morning arrived with the harsh buzz of Alexander's alarm. They dressed separately, him in his usual immaculate suit, her in professional attire she'd brought from her apartment the day before. The transformation was jarring. Within 30 minutes, they'd gone from lovers tangled in sheets to boss and employee preparing for separate commutes to the office. "I'll see you at work," Alexander said formally, and even his voice had changed. Become more distant, more professional. "Yes, Mr. Moretti," Olivia replied, matching his tone even as it felt wrong on her tongue. They took separate cars, arrived at different times, entered through different doors, and when Olivia walked past his office an hour later, he barely glanced up from his desk. To anyone watching, they were nothing more than employer and recently promoted employee. The game had begun. The week was challenging. Olivia threw herself into her new role, determined to prove Alexander's faith in her promotion was justified. She worked longer hours than necessary, took on additional projects, volunteered for the difficult assignments no one else wanted. She needed people to see she'd earned this position, that her capabilities extended far beyond scheduling meetings and managing calendars. Alexander maintained perfect professional distance. He was cordial, but not warm, acknowledging her work without excessive praise, treating her exactly as he treated every other member of his executive team. It was what they'd agreed to, what was necessary. But it was harder than Olivia had anticipated. She'd gotten used to his attention, his focused regard, and having it withdrawn during work hours felt like loss, even though she understood the reasons. Their after-hours time together became more precious. 3 nights that week, Olivia went to his penthouse after work, and they shed their professional personas, along with their work clothes. They talked, they made love, they learned more about each other. Alexander shared stories from his early career, the ruthless choices he'd made to build his empire, the people he'd hurt along the way. Olivia told him about her graduate school struggles, the nights she'd cried from exhaustion and stress, the fear that she'd never be good enough, no matter how hard she worked. Friday evening, exactly 1 week after she'd given him her virginity, Alexander surprised her. "Pack a bag," he said when she arrived at his penthouse. "We're leaving for the weekend." "Leaving where?" "My house in the Hamptons. It's private, isolated. No one from the office goes there. We can be ourselves without worrying about being seen together." The Hamptons house was stunning, a modern architectural masterpiece of glass and wood perched on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic. They arrived late Friday night, and Olivia stood on the deck, breathing in salt air and listening to waves crash below, feeling like she'd entered a different world. "This is beautiful," she said. "I come here when I need to think," Alexander replied, joining her at the railing. "It's the only place I really relax, really let my guard down. I've never brought anyone here before. You're the first." The significance of that statement wasn't lost on Olivia. This was his sanctuary, his private space, and he was sharing it with her. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for trusting me with it." They spent Saturday morning on the beach, walking along the shore, collecting shells, acting like any normal couple instead of boss and employee hiding a relationship. It was freeing, being able to hold his hand in public, to kiss him without worrying about who might see. They were just Alexander and Olivia here. No titles, no complications, just themselves. That evening, as they watched the sunset from the deck, Alexander asked the question Olivia had been half expecting, half dreading. "Where do you see this going? Long term, what do you want from us?" Olivia took a deep breath. "Honestly? I don't know. I'm 24, I'm just starting my career. I probably should be focused entirely on professional development. But I also can't imagine my life without you in it now. So maybe I want both. Career and relationship, professional success and personal happiness. Is that possible, or am I being naive?" "It's not naive," Alexander said. "Difficult, yes. Complicated, absolutely. But not impossible." He pulled her against his chest. I want you to succeed professionally, Olivia. I want to see you grow into the leader I know you can become. I don't want our relationship to limit you or hold you back. But, she prompted, hearing the unspoken caveat, but I also want you in my life permanently. Not just as an employee I'm secretly sleeping with, but as my partner, my equal, someone I build a future with. Olivia's breath caught. You mean like marriage? Eventually, yes. Not tomorrow, not this year probably. But yes, marriage. Children if you want them. A life together that doesn't have to be hidden or compartmentalized. He turned her to face him. I know I'm asking a lot. I'm asking you to be patient while we navigate the professional complications, to keep us secret while you establish yourself, to trust that this is worth the difficulty. But I'm also promising you that I'm committed, that this isn't casual for me, that I'm in this for the long term if you are. The certainty in his voice should have scared her. They'd only been together a week, only been intimate for 7 days. It was too fast, too intense, too much. Except it didn't feel like too much. It felt exactly right. I'm in, Olivia said, for the long term, for the complications, for all of it. Yes. Alexander kissed her then, deep and claiming, and Olivia kissed him back with equal passion. They made love on the deck as the sun set, not caring about the exposure, not caring about anything except each other. Later, wrapped in blankets and watching stars appear, Olivia thought about the journey that had brought them here. She'd walked into Alexander Moretti's office 6 months ago terrified and determined, carrying her inexperience like a shameful secret, convinced no one would want the burden of her virginity. She'd been wrong. He'd wanted her, innocence and all, had seen value in what she'd considered a flaw. And in giving him her virginity, she'd discovered something more important than physical pleasure. She'd discovered that trust wasn't weakness, that vulnerability could be strength, that letting someone see all of you, scars and fears and imperfections, that was the real intimacy. The blood on the sheets had terrified her, had seemed like damning evidence that she was too inexperienced, too naive, too much trouble. But Alexander had seen it differently. He'd seen it as proof of trust, as something precious rather than shameful, as a gift he hadn't known he was receiving, but would treasure nonetheless. And maybe that was the real lesson, that the things we're most ashamed of, the parts of ourselves we try to hide, those are often the very things that make us lovable to the right person. Olivia had spent 24 years protecting her virginity, not because she was prudish or scared, but because she was waiting for someone safe enough to trust, patient enough to handle her inexperience, strong enough to see past the innocence to the woman beneath. She'd found that person in Alexander Moretti. And yes, it was complicated. Yes, there would be challenges ahead, professional obstacles to navigate, public scrutiny to endure when their relationship eventually became known. But she'd face all of it gladly, because what they had was worth fighting for. "What are you thinking about?" Alexander asked, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. "About blood on sheets and how you reacted," Olivia said. "About how I was so scared you'd be angry or disappointed, and instead you were concerned and protective, and made me feel valued instead of broken." "You were never broken," Alexander said firmly. "You were perfect. You are perfect. And I'll spend as long as it takes making sure you believe that." The rest of the weekend passed in blissful isolation. They cooked together, explored the beach, made love in every room of the house. They talked about everything and nothing, learning the small details that make up a life. Olivia discovered Alexander was terrible at poker, but excellent at chess. that he secretly loved terrible action movies, that he'd wanted to be an architect before choosing business. Alexander learned that Olivia sang in the shower, that she organized her books by color rather than author, that she dreamed of eventually starting her own consulting firm once she had enough experience. Sunday evening, as they prepared to return to the city, to resume their separate professional lives, Alexander gave her a key. "To the Hamptons house," he explained. "I want you to be able to come here whenever you need to, whether I'm with you or not. This is our space now, our sanctuary." Olivia took the key, understanding the significance. He was giving her access to the most private part of his life, trusting her with the place he valued most. "Thank you," she whispered, and the words felt inadequate for what the gesture meant. Monday arrived again, bringing back the professional distance, the careful boundaries, the separation of roles. But now it felt more manageable, less like loss, and more like temporary necessity. Olivia knew they had the weekends, had the Hamptons house, had after-work hours where they could be themselves. She could handle the professional distance during the day because she knew what waited at night. The weeks turned into months. Olivia excelled in her new role, earning respect from colleagues who initially questioned her promotion. She led successful projects, brought in new clients, proved repeatedly that her position was earned rather than given. And slowly, the whispers about her rapid advancement faded, replaced by acknowledgement of her capabilities. Her relationship with Alexander deepened. They fell into patterns, routines, small rituals that made them feel like a real couple, despite the secrecy. Friday evenings in the Hamptons became sacred, a guaranteed escape from the pressures of work. Wednesday nights were for cooking together at his penthouse, experimenting with recipes, burning things occasionally, laughing at their failures. Sunday mornings meant sleeping late, making love slowly, reading the papers in comfortable silence. They fought occasionally, learning how to navigate disagreements, discovering that conflict didn't mean ending, that they could be angry and still love each other. They faced challenges, moments when the dual lives felt too difficult, when Olivia wanted to scream that she was Alexander Moretti's girlfriend and didn't care who knew. But they pushed through, remembering why the secrecy mattered, what they were protecting. And 6 months after that first blood-stained morning, Alexander called Olivia into his office during work hours, closing the door behind her. "We need to talk," he said, his voice formal, despite the closed door. Olivia's heart jumped. Those words rarely meant anything good. "Okay. I'm going to announce our relationship," Alexander said, "officially. To the board, to the executive team, to everyone." Olivia blinked in surprise. "Now? Already? We said a year to be safe, and you've proven yourself beyond any doubt in 6 months. Your track record speaks for itself. You're respected, your work is exceptional, and anyone who tries to claim you got here through our relationship will look foolish, because the timeline doesn't support it. You were promoted before we became public. You've succeeded independently. You've earned everything you have." He moved closer. "I'm tired of hiding you, Olivia. Tired of pretending you're just another employee when you're so much more. I want to be able to hold your hand at company events, introduce you as my partner, publicly acknowledge what you mean to me. If you're ready." Olivia's mind raced through implications, potential fallout, how their co-workers would react. But underneath the anxiety was relief. She was tired of hiding, too, tired of the dual life, tired of pretending not to care when Alexander walked past her desk without acknowledgement. "I'm ready," she said. "Tell them. Make it public. I can handle whatever comes." Alexander smiled, genuine and warm in a way he rarely was during work hours. Then we go public. Tomorrow, I'll call a board meeting, make the announcement properly, address any concerns about conflict of interest by explaining the timing and your independent reporting structure. Are you sure? I'm sure, Olivia confirmed. The announcement caused exactly the reaction they'd anticipated. Some surprise, some judgment, some knowing looks from people who'd suspected all along. But because Olivia's professional record was strong, because she'd proven her capabilities independently, the gossip faded quickly. She was Alexander Moretti's girlfriend, yes, but she was also a talented strategic advisor who'd earned her position. Both things could be true simultaneously. Life became easier after going public. They could be seen together without worry, could attend events as a couple, could acknowledge their relationship openly. Olivia moved into the penthouse officially, giving up her small apartment. They combined their lives fully, no longer compartmentalized or hidden. And 1 year after that first blood-stained morning, Alexander proposed properly. Not in the penthouse or the Hamptons' house, but in his office, where they'd first met, where Olivia had walked in terrified and determined 1.5 years earlier. He got down on one knee, produced a ring, and asked her to marry him in the place where their story had begun. She said yes through tears, and Alexander slid the ring onto her finger, kissing her in the office where they'd maintained such careful distance for so long. There's a particular kind of love that doesn't happen despite our flaws, but because of them. Alexander loved Olivia not despite her inexperience, but because her trust in him to be her first meant everything. Olivia loved Alexander not despite his reputation for ruthlessness, but because he'd shown her the gentleness beneath the hard exterior, the man who cared enough to worry about blood-stained sheets and soreness and whether he'd hurt her. They'd both been carrying secrets, both convinced parts of themselves were unlovable. And then they'd found each other and discovered that the things they'd hidden were exactly what made them perfect for each other. Sometimes the blood on white sheets isn't evidence of something wrong, but proof of something profoundly right. Proof that someone trusted you enough to be vulnerable, to give you something precious, to let you see them completely. And if you're lucky enough to receive that trust, you honor it, protect it, treasure it for the gift it is. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Comment where you're listening from. And if you felt it was really worth it, consider becoming a member to get early access to upcoming stories. Your support makes all the difference.